we're struggling with this, we might as well struggle through it. Alright, we're about 8 lines from the bottom of page AyinBase 8. And we'll start again right after the parentheses. The line begins with the word oir. So we are saying that oir from atzmus is not, so to speak, a natural progression. Since there is etzem, and it comes begilui, and it comes oir. The whole phenomenon of gilui from etzem is not a natural progression. It is something which is decided by the etzem, a decision to allow this gilui. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. So we start by that perhaps it's in the middle, but basically we have the Shezeh Gilui Shebo Al Dei Horotz. Oir. When we are thinking of oil, we're thinking of light, of daylight. Daylight, essentially, we discussed many times, in daylight also, there are essentially different aspects, different categories. If we go through these categories, we'll be able to come closer to the meaning of oil as it's meant here. There is the daylight as is perceived and is explained on a physical level, that there is an energy emanating from. There's energy emanating from the sun, and this energy, when it hits an object, functions like oil, like light. It illuminates the object, and you can see the object. This energy is not light per se. It's a physical energy. Then there is another aspect. The effect of light from the sun. The effect of light from the sun is not something that you can experience tangibly and physically. When a light shines on an object, so you say this object is now deflecting this light and you see the object. But the light that we are experiencing coming from the sun is a light that has no limits, is all encompassing. It just simply eliminates darkness and you're able to see everywhere, not in one place or another. This is a different concept of light. This is light, so to speak. Light in contrast to darkness. This is not energy light. This is in contrast. Just as darkness encompasses everything, light also encompasses everything. This light is clearly a much finer concept than the energy process. Then there is another aspect of light, and that is the presence of the sun. The presence of the sun has a completely different effect. We can even experience this when we have sunlight coming through the cloud or the sun shining before sunrise. We also have light. But once sun itself comes up, it has a completely different effect. And what is the effect of the sun? The effect of the sun is that this light brings us not light, but sun. What's the difference? The difference is light is that which knows of darkness. The light is in contrast to darkness. And it is light because it encounters the darkness. It's not an essential light. Because it's encountering the darkness, and therefore we recognize it as light. Sun is not a light in contrast to darkness. As it's mentioned many times, in sun there is no darkness altogether. The whole phenomenon of darkness doesn't exist in the sun. Like we always give an example. A candlelight is also light, but at the center of that light is a wick, which is not light. In the sun there is no wick. There is no center that is not light. Sun is light through and through. It is light coming from light. That type of light, that concept of light, which is what we call the essence of light, this is not something which travels from the sun and takes time, and then it hits an object and it is the very presence of the sun that eliminates the darkness. This is why, halachically, for example, there are things that you can do only by day, like korbanos and so forth, only by day. And the reason for that is not because by day you can see, but because day is a different, is a specific type of time, a period. In day there is no darkness to begin with. There's no such thing as darkness because the sun is there. So this day element, this is formed by sun, not by light. I always bring the posik. The posik says, "V'lim shal bayim v'layla." The sun and the moon, they rule the day and the night. They don't illuminate the day and the night. They rule. As Hashem is Mamshel is Ayin, Mamshel is Halayla. The ruling in the Pshat Hazeh, when you're a ruler eliminates any other kind of rule, any other kind of person. He rules every aspect of it. He takes over everything. Like I say, this is Malchus of this Melech. This Malchus of this Melech means that the Melech is present in every last crack and crevice. And it's not present because he goes and takes it. He's automatically present. It's all representative of him. This is a different kind of light. This light is literally an intangible principle. It is the effect of the presence of the sun itself. Our motion for this, that is closer to us, that we can actually relate and experience, is the motion, like we always say, is the host and the guest. And somebody invites a guest for lunch, and the guest comes, and the host serves the guest a luscious lunch, and as soon as the guest sits down and starts eating the lunch. What would happen if at this moment the guest said, "Okay, enjoy your lunch, I'm leaving"?
The host said.
The host said, "I'm leaving." What's missing? I gave you the lunch, everything. If you're leaving, you left me. You took everything away. This is a kind of light that is a completely different concept. I always go a step further and point out, what if the guest is so callous that he takes lunch and says, "Thank you very much, I'll take the lunch, I'll go home." He's missing totally the whole point. This is what we call an idiot. So light, we're talking about light, Lamaila, we're talking about light of Atzmos. Light that does not have a process, an effect, other than bringing the source, bringing the Atzmos. This light of Atzmos, this is an interesting thing. If you say Atzmos is there, then light automatically is there, because Atzmos is there. Says no. This light, even though it's light of Atzmos, is not automatically there. Because Atzmos does not automatically stand in a manner that he can be identified as a presence. It is not present. The expression in the Jewish philosophers, in what's called the Chokrim, is that his presence is a non-presence. Nimtzo shalem mtzios nimtzo, it's called. Any presence automatically has some kind of a limit, some kind of a definition. There is absolutely no such thing in Atzmos. This is exactly what we're learning here. We're saying that this light, in other words, the light of Atzmos, the light that simply tells you, oh, there is the Etzem, there is the Gilui, this is something which is completely volitional. Berotzen. By will.
What's the word?
Volitional.
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 Volitional. Oh.
It's because he wants, that's why there is Gilui. The Gilui is not because he's present. There's no presence. He wants to be present, he's present. This is what we're saying. So we're starting, as I said, this is what this is. 5 lines from the bottom, from the white bottom, after the parentheses. Whose phone is being paged? Ki yi ma shehagiluhu berotzen. Over here, the Rebbe explains something. Actually, I want to go back, maybe I'll go back a line above, in the parentheses. Right above the line where I started now, in the beginning of the parentheses. There is a certain point that the Rebbe brings in here, but we actually did not kind of focus on, and I will do it now. We're saying that the Gilui is Berotzen. Now, this principle of the Gilui is Berotzen can be understood in 2 ways. Just to give us a little handle on this, there's an interesting phenomenon that we all experience. You walk into a house, into a room, and the room is completely empty, without any furnishings, totally empty. And you surmise a certain, the size of this room. When this room is furnished, it looks much larger than you perceived it originally. It's a phenomenon that everybody experiences. What's behind this? Answer my question? Mm-hmm. What's behind this? The empty room does not cause us to recognize dimensions, because it goes on infinity, without limit. Therefore, we don't really surmise the full size. When you start putting furniture, therefore, then we're able to see, oh, there is a place from here to here, there's a place from here to here, there's a place from here to here, there's a place from here. Each one of these spaces are identified individually by the furnishings that are blocking it. Essentially, this concept is called Tzimtzum. Tzimtzum means that instead of looking at the entire area as a whole, you're limiting it. You're taking one piece at a time. You're mitzamtzum. So this area has only one limited function. There's a table in it. Without the table, it has unlimited function. Therefore, there's no limit to it. You put a table, there's a limited function, and that's how you identify this space. You put a chair here, that has a limited function. Together, that expands, so to speak. It shows you what's there through the tzimtzum. You take away the generality and put it in more specifics. So when we say that in Asmos there is no Gilui, one may think there's no Gilui because Asmos is infinite, so therefore there's no Gilui. So all you have to do is mitzamtzum the Asmos.
Disconnected.
That's the thing. You have to be mitzamtzum the Asmos, and that way there's going to be Gilui, like in the room. If the room is untamed, you don't see it. It just goes, it does not tell you anything about itself. With some, it begins saying Atmos is like a big food. Therefore, and therefore that way you'll have a gila from Atmos. So this Rebbe says that tzimtzum in Atmos is totally impossible. There's no such thing as tzimtzum in Atmos. Tzimtzum cannot be, Atmos cannot be in tzimtzum. Therefore, how does gila come? If Atmos is everywhere, as we said, like in the room is everywhere. You can't see anything. Atmos is everywhere. How do you see Atmos? How did Gila come? It can be through tzimtzum. How then does it come? You understand the question? And this is what Rabbi says. Ki yimi asher hagilu hu berotzeh. Therefore, the Gilui from Atmos is not as it seems to Chas v'Sholem. It is berotze. The Hainu, which means rak mipnei, only because sheritzoyne yizbore b'chinas Gilui. Oir. Because it's a ritzoyne yizbore, that the Ayin from Gilui Oir, and this is why there is a Gilui, there is a knowledge of His presence. What kind of oil is this? It's oil from Atmos. That we'll see in a minute. But the point is that this Gila does not come directly because of the tzimtzum Atmos, because of no tzimtzum. It's a rotzen. It's something which he directly wants that there should be the yin from Gila. Gila yoid. Let's continue. Or memele. Somebody's on. Not muted.
Sorry, he is on the phone. I'm going on mute.
Okay, very good. Welcome. And therefore, therefore the gila does not qualify to be called a gilui min ha'etzem. Because this gilui min ha'etzem means that which comes because the etzem is there. This gila does not come because the etzem is there. This gila comes because the etzem wants it. This gila represents his will for gila, not his etzem, his presence. Therefore, ein hagila bivchinas gila min ha'etzem. Bivchinas gila means it does not qualify that category, that definition, that this is a new from gila min ha'etzem.
Because it comes from Ratzon.
Because it comes through Ratzon. And here there are very interesting, very, very fine distinctions.
I'm sorry. We're saying because Gilim and Ayatzim usually would be not Berotzen, just automatically?
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah, not usually. That's what Gilim and Ayatzim means.
It means Gilim and Ayatzim means automatically.
Gila min etzem. What's mean gila min etzem? Because the gila min etzem means because there's an etzem, there's a gila. But this gila doesn't represent the fact that the etzem is done because there's an etzem.
Like by the sun.
Right. I always call your attention to the expression bivchinas. It comes from the etzem. This gila comes from the etzem, no other source for it. But it's not representative of the etzem, of the gila min etzem. And bivchinas. Bivchinas means it does not. The word bivchina literally means test. Like we have a chemical test. You take a blood test. And what do you do with the blood test? You take the blood and you put some chemicals into it, and this identifies various things in the blood. Why do you need the chemicals? You look at the blood, you should be able to see what's in the blood. The answer is that there are things that are completely camouflaged. There is no way you could see it. It comes through only under a test, not even under microscope. It comes under a test. You test for it, and then it somehow identifies itself through this test. That's what bechinas. Now, bechina is that which represents something which is not readily visible, readily identifiable. But if you think into it, you see that there is that quality. That's what bechinas. Under the test of the intellect, then that would surface. Directly you won't see it. This oir is not bivchinas gilum etzem. It doesn't under any test will show that this is etzem. It does not represent the etzem. It's a gil. That's why bivchinas gilum etzem. And now he says in the parentheses, Rotzo Leimer. The point over here is this. The benefesh in the nefesh, she'agila gamkin berotz. In the nefesh where the gila is also berotz. We all know, understand. There's much to speak about this, but in principle we all understand. There's a principle difference between the nefesh and the sun. The nefesh is an etzem chai, and the sun is an etzem behiri. But there's a principal difference in how their effect comes. The oil from the shah, from the sun, comes without a choice, without willing, without rotzi. The sun does not decide to give off oil. If the sun is present, the oil is automatically there. Even the highest level of oil. The sun cannot conceal itself within itself. It is always begila. The nefesh, on the other hand, the gila is berotz. The gila from the nefesh is berotz.
Well, gamkein berotz, and it's just like atmish.
Yeah. The gila from nefesh is also berotz. This is a very important principle. Perhaps we'll have a chance now. We are going through this already the fifth time, but maybe this time. In the nefesh hagila is also berotz. I just want to give us a little bit of a first step insight into this. Why do we say that the gila from the nefesh is berotz, and the gila from the sun is not berotz? They are similar in terms of the essential state. The sun is etzem behiri, the nefesh is etzem chai. And yet, by the nefesh we say it's berotz, and it has to be berotz. The sun, not. There's an interesting thing that the Alter Rebbe brings down in Tanya, that there is what's called the mashpia mekabel. For someone who's learning from a Rav, he's learning, you would think he was learning from his words, what he says. He takes the words and he shuffles in and put them into his logic and and the way he understands him, and that's how he understands the saying. This is what he's saying. And yes, we say, no, there's a very big difference. If a person would hear these very same words, when the Rav is learning for himself and talking to himself, he's not even attempting to explain it to anyone. He would not understand it the same way as when the Rav is focused to explain it to him. Although they may in fact be exactly the same words. Mr. Altero says in Tanya. What's behind this? Even as we mentioned many times, as we are learning this written word. We're learning it from the writing. So we are learning from the writing and we're interpreting as we understand it. We're learning from the writing. At this point in times, we can't learn from the writing. We have to sense what is the Rebbe trying to tell us with this word. Otherwise, this is not called learning from the Rebbe. Every word here is a living word. It's talking to us. And that's how you learn. Why is this? And the answer to this is a very important principle. Like in learning, in Nefesh it's even more deeper. In learning, for example, learning is called Hashpah Pnimis. There is two types of Hashpah. Hashpah Chitzenis, Hashpah Makif, and Hashpah Pnimis. The sun is a Makif, even though the sun has tremendous effect. But it's not Makif. In other words, what's Makif? The light of the sun, as much as it shines, as much as it illuminates, it is never absorbed in the object that now it itself becomes shiny, light. It doesn't become light. As long as there is light there, you can see it. And it experiences the light. But it's there only while the sun is giving it to it. Once the sun disappears, it doesn't have any of it instantaneously. Because it is not something which is absorbed by Pnimius. Hashpah is Seichel. Seichel is Hashpah Pnimis. Hashpah Seichel is not just to tell, the Rabbi is not telling you what he understands. The Rabbi is telling the Talmud what you understand. And the bringing out in the Talmud his Keach HaSeichel, that he showing him this is what you understand. That's what Hashpah Pnimis is. Hashpah Pnimis can only be focused and direct. Otherwise, it's not. It cannot penetrate. It cannot reach the person in such a way that he understands it.
Why would that be? That's because of the relationship element. There's something like the personal element. It's beyond. It's not just the information. Let's put it that way.
There are many aspects, many little details. I'm going to go straight to the heart of it. When we observe physically, we observe the world. In our observation, also there are several steps, several different levels. No matter what we know about the world, about what we observe, but we understand what's the difference between this tree and this leaf and that leaf. Could be we know a lot, we know a little. It makes a difference. No matter how much what we know. The reality of this, what we see, comes not because we have understood it, we have discerned it. The reality of it is because it shows itself to us. In other words, if we find out this thing because we have experienced it, we have identified it, then we don't know the real thing. We know it only how it affected us. To know the real thing is only when you know it the way it shows itself to you.
This showing itself to you is as you're being addressed.
As you're being addressed, exactly. This is a tremendous phenomenon. And I want to point out an interesting thing of tremendous significance. I hope we can eventually use this. There's a whole, unfortunately, there is a whole debate, a whole controversy. Is the world a creation or the world an entity unto itself? And those who have this difficulty, they start knowing, in order to know the world, I have to really touch it, I have to really examine it and experience it. Then it becomes real. The reason for that is because they cannot relate to the principle, the world is a creation. It's being shown to you. You're not discovering it. Therefore, you can relate to its fundamental truth, not by your identifying it. This is the real thing. This is called Hashpah Pnimis. The Rebbe created the world, and he gave it to us. Or it's not only the other. He gave it to us. If we accept the world as a gift from God, it's a completely different world. Besides that, this relates us to Eberstein. It's a different world. It's a living world.
Can we just review that? Because
No. You can review it from there. I have to come to a certain point, maybe afterwards. So, the principle of Hashpah Pnimis is very heavily dependent on the Ayin, that it is intended for you. Then it's Hashpah Pnimis. The Alter Rebbe explains that what is actually enabling the Hashpah from the Rab to Talmud, it's not the Rab's Seichel. The Rab can be very, very smart, but that does not create the Hashpah. Hashpah comes to Midas. Chesed Ahava. If he had no Ahava for the Talmud, he couldn't teach. And then all the midas, Ahava, Gvura, and Tiferes, Rachamim, and then he goes into the lower midas of Netzach Hoi Disoid, when he says that he has to actually focus in, make a binding between him and the Talmud. Without that, it couldn't be a real Hashpah. Because this is Hashpah Pnimis. Hashpah Pnimis means that you're not just giving the Talmud, here's what I know. Here is what the reality is that we both know. There's a story of the Rebbe Rashab. You know, in Lubavitch, the Rebbe made a yeshiva. It was a big yeshiva. At some point in time, there was hundreds of Talmidim, and it had all the levels. He had the main thing. It was the Mesmedrash, the real Chassidus, a lot of Chassidus, and then there was also a yeshiva Ktana, bar mitzvah boys, all kinds of different things. And the Rebbe was personally involved in the developing of the yeshiva. This yeshiva, the Rebbe said, this is our preparation for the war of Messianic war, so to speak. And it turned out exactly what it was. These Talmidim were the ones who fought the communists. No one else was able to stand up to them. So the Rebbe himself was very closely involved. So he used to go in the classes and from time to time sit in the class. One time he went into a class, and the Rab, the Rebbe, whatever it is, was giving a shir, was giving a very rich and deep pilpul shir. You want a Pilpul Shiras? Everybody wants a Pilpul Shiras? Pilpul Shiras is a very intricate process. If you want to, you have a question, you want to come to a conclusion about this question, not simply I feel this must be it. You have to prove it through all kinds of different sources. This is the only way it could be. That's what I'm feeling. He was given a big Pilpul Shiva. That's primarily what the Rosh Hashiva does. Pilpul Shiva. Whoever was listening to Pilpul Shiva was a beautiful Pilpul Shiva. After the Shiva, the Rebbe called in this Rosh Hashiva. He said to him, "Did you prepare the Shiva for this class?" You can go to Slabodka, but this kind of shir you can go to Slabodka. By Yas, you're going to prepare a shir for your class. You don't need this kind of people. You understand? That's some of the point. That he didn't prepare, and he wasn't ready. But he has a big lam, so he made a big lamness. He showed what he knows, but he's not teaching anything to the Talmudim. He never said you can go to Slabodka. For this you can go to Slabodka. This is that Ashpor Pnimis. Ashpor Pnimis means that the Ashpor has to actually be absorbed by the Talmud, become one with his own Seich. And that can only happen if it is intentionally focused on him. There's no other way. This is why the Aspors are Nefesh gives Chayas. Nefesh gives Chayas. Nefesh shows that I'm alive, or the Nefesh gives the Guf life. It gives life to the Guf. Therefore, it has to be intentional. It has to be bereft. This is what the Rebbe says. But Nefesh Hagile Gam Kim bereft. In the Nefesh Hagile is also bereft. Yet still, there's a still difference. Shenim Shehagilu, when this Gilu is Nimshach from the Nefesh, Harehu Gilu min Ho'etzem. This Gilu is a Gilu from the Etzem, even though it is Nimshach berotz. Mipnei, because Sheho'etzem hu Shehu Chai Be'etzem. Because this is what the Etzem is, and he is Chai Be'etzem. Therefore, when the Nefesh is giving Chayas, Berotzim, what is he giving? He is giving of what its own quality is. Canal. Mashenkin Lamaila. When there's a Maila, it's not like that. In Maila, the Hashpor is not from the Etzem. The difference, it can be very simply put. The Nefesh is giving of itself, Berotz. In other words, what he is giving is of itself. It's not, the Rotzen does not create the Chayas. The Chayas is because the Nefesh is Chay. But the Rotzen is only, should I give the Chayas or should I not give the Chayas? That's what the Rotzen is. Lamaila, the whole creation of that Gilu is Berotz. There's a Rotzen that there should be Gilu. If not for the Rotzen, there's no Gilu. And that's the big difference. That's why Lamaila, this Gilu cannot be defined, identified as a Gilu from the Rotzen, from the Etzem. Because it's not. It's a Gilu that comes Berotz. So therefore, he concludes this principle here in the next parenthesis. The whole Gilui Shuhu Berotzoin, any Gilui that is Berotzoin, that is by will, Harehu, that Gil is present in the category K'moi Shekodmoi HaHeder. It's as it were Kodmoi HaHeder. That the negative, that the absence, the the non-existence of this Gilui preceded the Gilui to coming into being. Ba'arehu mechudash. And therefore this Gilui is mechudash, is totally a novel presence as a result of this Rotz. Das means Gilui Berotz. This is bichlal a logical principle. If it comes Berotzen, means that it doesn't come from that which already existed. The Rotzen, it brings it into presence. That is true in the Nefesh also. Except in the Nefesh, it is not that the Chayas itself is in Ischadish, but its connection to the Guf is Ischadish. Which is in fact true. The Nefesh is not anxious to go into the Guf. It goes into the Guf on a mission. So this is like a Chidush. Kabbalah soil. Kabbalah says it's a double Chidush. But it's not comparable.
Kabbalah is what?
It's a Chidush. Kabbalah soil means that there is no prior cause for this. You just accept it. That's a Chidush. So the Nefesh also, this is like a Chidush, but the Chidush is only in terms of being mashpia to the Guf, to be nimshach into the Guf. But the Hashpah itself is the Nefesh who chai beyetzem. He is mashpia chayes, mashpia of what it is, his own chayes, his own reality. Masha'enk in Lamailo, it is really caught me ahead, it is a new thing. Whole Gilishu Ahariyah B'Kmeisha Kodmim HaHeder. This is an extremely difficult thing to really to elaborate on. K'meisha Kodmim HaHeder. It's as if Kodmim HaHeder that the absence preceded it, in a state of not being. In Atzmos there is nothing that is being and nothing that is not being. But nevertheless, the way it comes is Kodmim HaHeder. The principle is Bareu Mechudash, and therefore it is a no Chudash. It's something which comes, is innovated from nothing, which goes from Mekimach. And this union that is Mechudash is understood very well. If you Hamvura kan iyan yire berotz. One is Mevur kan iyan gil berotz. I'm going to be very brief again. The Rebbe is extremely brief, and I don't like to skip anything. Just want to show that every word has its place. That's all. What is Mavur Kan Yin Gilu B'Rotzin? The Gilu B'Rotzin is a substitute in terms of how we learn and how we explain to Tzimtzum. Effectively, this is like a tzimtzum. But it's not a tzimtzum. The tzimtzum in Atzmos is not possible. It's berot.
The substitutes, a different value.
Different value. Okay, can you believe it? We finished this whole page.
I thought he gave it up last time.
I gave it up several times. 7 years, and can you believe it? You better believe it.
We went this far.
All right, this is it for this morning.
Ay, 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 ay.